Um, Nick, who is a recent graduate from the University of Humber, and is a communications professional. He loves making videos, enjoys nature's music and exercise. He has been speaking over the course of our series. This presentation will be recorded and is available on our YouTube channel afterwards. This presentation will be 35 minutes long, and we'll have a Q&A with Nick after. Um, Again, I would like to thank you all for coming. And Nick, the mic is yours.
All right. Good morning, everyone. So today our topic is recognizing elder abuse. It might be a bit of a very triggering topic, so I just wanted to say that in the beginning. All right, so let's get started. So recognizing elder abuse. What constitutes elder abuse? And how do we recognize what elder abuse actually is? And furthermore, how do we handle it? So that's basically what we're going to be covering in today's presentation. And let's just get right into it. So, first of all, who are abusers of elder adults? Abuse of older adults often occurs within the family by adult children or grandchildren. But other possible roles of elder abuse, my bad, include other relatives, friends, neighbors, paid or unpaid caregivers, landlords, financial advisors, or any individual in a position of power, trust, or authority. When a spouse is abusive, it's called domestic violence. So, who is at risk of elder abuse? Many times people that have experienced abuse say, I never thought it would have happened to me. So abuse can happen to any person, any age. And there are a number of risk factors that may cause concern and might lead to abusive behavior. So let's begin with isolation. Being physically, socially, or culturally isolated can result in an environment where you can be abused because it plays with your mental health and it can make you feel neglected, so you put yourself down and allow people to treat you in a different type of way. Living with someone that has a history of domestic violence or having experienced domestic violence in the past is also very likely to experience it again in the future. So just try to leave a domestic violence situation as best as possible and as soon as possible, because it's very likely and more often than not it will happen again. So another way that you can be put at risk of elder abuse is by having a shared living situation. So that by that I mean living with other family members that can take advantage of you, steal your money, or try to put you in your place or silence your voice. All right, and also dependency on an older adult. So for shelter or financial help. So a younger person that depends on an older adult will also have an opportunity to abuse them by maybe leeching off of them, taking their money, and not taking as proper care of them as they need to, and looking after themselves instead. So just basically taking advantage. And another risk is living with someone that has addiction issues, because they will always put the addiction over you and your own personal health. Depression and other mental health issues also lead to a risk environment, because living with someone that is depressed, they can lash out at you. And also, if you have depression yourself, you will allow yourself to be treated not to your personal standards that you require. And lastly, cognitive impairment. This can create a space where people can also lash out and maybe do things that they are unaware of and not aware of how it will affect you. So that's another way that elder abuse can be a risk. All right, so next slide. How can you recognize elder abuse? So there's generally 6 types, and I'm going to go through all of them. So the first is financial abuse. And financial abuse happens if somebody tricks, threatens, or persuades older adults out of their money, property, or possessions. So this could be anywhere from a scam, a banker, or maybe a family member. a friend, and is someone that aims to take advantage of you because they know that you're in a position where you have money and maybe you might be feeling a bit lonely and you're not realizing that they're actually taking advantage of you. Next is psychological or emotional abuse. And it's a psychological abuse if somebody threatens, insults, intimidates, or humiliates an older adult, treats the person like a child, or does not allow them to see their family and friends. So this can be a very frustrating situation and very limiting, and it can really damage your mental health. If someone abuses you in this way and constantly puts you down, it can make you feel as if you're not as important as you should be feeling. And another form of elder abuse is spiritual or religious abuse. So spiritual or religious abuse occurs when someone limits or restricts the spiritual practices, customs, or traditions of an older adult. Abuse also includes using an older adult's beliefs to exploit the person, attacking the person's beliefs, or not allowing the person to participate in religious events and activities. So there's a lot to unpack with this one for spiritual and religious abuse. Basically, for example, if you are a very devout Christian, someone may try to use your faith against you by saying this will help you become closer with God if you do this, or things like that. So it's basically someone taking advantage of your faith for their benefit. All right, and then the other three types, number four is sexual abuse, and it is sexual abuse if someone forces an older adult to engage in sexual activity. This may include verbal or suggestive behavior. Not it doesn't always have to be something physical. It could just be something that makes you feel very uncomfortable, and not respecting personal privacy, and of course, sexual intercourse. And number five is physical abuse. It is physical abuse if someone hits an older adult or handles the person roughly, even if there was no injury. But if they're becoming increasingly aggressive, that opens the gateway for physical abuse as well. And then lastly, we have neglect. And this is a bit different from the other signs of abuse. Neglect occurs when someone withholds care, food, or emotional support that an older adult is unable to provide for him or herself. Sometimes people providing care do not have the necessary knowledge, experience, or ability to fully care for older adults, and that may result in neglect, and it's an abusive pattern. All right, so warning signs of abuse and what to look for. There are quite a few. I'm just going to go through all of them for all the different types of abuse. So, some of the warning signs include injuries, of course, such as bruises, cuts, or broken bones, malnourishment or weight loss. So, basically, not being fed well or put on a feeding schedule, poor hygiene, not being looked after and cleaned enough, symptoms of anxiety, depression, or confusion developing is also a sign of living in an abusive environment or recognizing abuse. Unexplained transactions or loss of money. So this would be an example of financial abuse and basically someone taking advantage of you. Withdrawal from family or friends, and just being a bit distant emotionally and not wanting to basically socialize as much. That's another sign of abuse because in that state of mind, you're going to be putting yourself down, and it's possibly most likely because of someone else's treatment towards you. Another one is the large sums of money missing from bank statements. And of course, that's another sign of financial abuse. A senior not being able to access their financial records or being locked away from it. You should always be in full control of your own finances. The elder provides gifts or monetary reimbursement in exchange for companionship. So that's another form of elder abuse because if you're providing gifts or monetary reimbursement for companionship, you're basically paying for a friend that's not a genuine friend, and the other person is taking advantage of you by taking your money to spend time with you because someone that actually cares and genuinely cares will want to spend time with you for free. Strange or unexplainable transactions, so like earlier, missing bank statements, bed sores or pressure ulcers. This is basically another form of neglect, being left in bed for an extended period of time without supervision or care, lack of basic hygiene, adequate food or hydration, missing medical aids such as walkers, dentures, eyeglasses, medications, or hearing aids, and those being withheld from you. Unclean or unsafe living conditions such as lack of heat or plumbing, soil bedding, or bug infestations is definitely neglect abuse. Um, Being indifferent, angry, demeaning, or aggressive towards the elderly, so such as a caretaker not taking the appropriate steps towards you, that is abusive behavior. Failing to show affection toward the senior if you're related. So this is another example maybe of neglect or financial abuse. If your grandchildren are not showing you true affection and you're related, it could be a sign of maybe isolating and emotional abuse. Giving conflicting explanations of physical injuries is also a sign of abuse. It might be an elder that's experienced abuse and is embarrassed and trying to hide what actually happened. So try to look into that if someone's giving conflicting explanations of injuries. Having a history of mental illness, substance abuse, family violence, or criminal behavior opens the door for people like this to come and try to take advantage of you. Keeping the elderly person from talking to visitors and keeping them alone is also neglecting and financial and abusive. Speaking about the elders as if they were a burden, using flirtatious or inappropriate language around the elder, being hesitant to talk freely, isolating or withdrawing from others, making up implausible stories about how an injury occurred, suffering from anxiety, anger, depression, or fear, and also maybe an unexplained sexually transmitted disease, bruises on the thighs or genitals, and inappropriate relationship between a caregiver and an elder. So that is a lot, and these are all different signs of abuse. If you know anyone that's experienced this or if you experienced it yourself, please just take some time to think about it and analyze if you think you're experiencing any type of abuse or abusive patterns are being created. All right, and what can we do to stop elder abuse? You may or may not want to leave the situation or take action, but it is important to know your options and that help is always available. So to seek help experiencing elder abuse, you should tell someone that you trust what is happening, ask others for help if you need it, turn to the police for help if someone is hurting you or you do not feel safe, talk with people to learn about resources and services available in your community, find out your options to take care of your personal needs and financial security, and lastly, make a safety plan in case you need to leave quickly. And what a safety plan is basically you having a quick and safe exit, having all your financial papers, your important documents, your passport, um, tax records, your walker, your first aid kit, extra money, all your keys. So basically, everything you need to look after yourself for a short time and get out of where you are. That's an abusive situation. All right, and now I have a quick video about elder abuse awareness.
Elder abuse is defined as any action or inaction that causes harm to an older person and occurs in a relationship of trust. With our aging population, more seniors are becoming reliant upon family and other caregivers to assist them in their day-to-day living. Unfortunately, this dynamic has led to an increasing number of elder abuse cases to occur. This includes physical harm, neglect, emotional abuse, and financial exploitation. Any older person can be a victim, regardless of gender, culture, race, or financial status. However, there are factors that place certain older persons at increased risk of being a victim and include problems with their mental capacity, social isolation, and dependence on others. Mental capacity is the ability to understand and appreciate information that will allow a person to be able to successfully make their own decisions. Some older persons may lack this capacity, however, due to age-related cognitive disease, such as dementia.
Dementia is a syndrome where people have difficulties in a number of cognitive domains, trouble with their memory, trouble with processing information, trouble with reasoning and judgment, and being able to say what was the advantage of this choice over that choice. And so they might get easily bamboozled if someone's giving them lots of choices, or someone's giving them ideas about what they should do or not do that are not in their own best interest.
Social isolation occurs when one's social networks are small and a person has very few people to speak to or confide in. And this often goes hand in hand with dependence.
We have very few people that are helping us out in life. We have quite a bit of dependence on them, and we put quite a bit of trust in them. And in the wrong hands, that relationship of trust can turn into a relationship of power and control pretty easily.
Although there is no typical profile of a victim, the opposite is true for the abuser. Overwhelmingly, it's family. Over 40% of the time, it is an adult child, sons more often than daughters. Next is the spouse. And when you consider grandchildren and other relatives, the abuser is a family member over 90% of the time.
It's very often the child who never really achieved independence. They never got out on their own, had trouble maintaining employment.
It's typically that the younger person is dependent on the older person. And that dependency can be exacerbated by drug and alcohol abuse, or they may have kind of a failure to launch syndrome. Sometimes we talk about the unsuccessful son in the basement that moves in. Some of the other types of abusers that we see tend to be people who hold a position of power. So they may be a person who's a power of attorney. And so sometimes it's just actually people wanting to get a hold of the money. But even where people are very low income, elder abuse happens. So whether it's taking a pension check or whether it's making sure that they have access to debit cards for everyday expenses, greed can play a role.
Unfortunately, elder abuse very often goes unreported. The majority of victims are either unwilling or unable to talk about the abuse with anyone, let alone report it to the police. They may fear the abuser and have fear of reprisal. Others may feel shame or embarrassment, be in denial of the abuse, not even recognize it as abuse, or have a dependency on the abuser. But most often, the older person actually feels protective towards the one abusing them. Considering they are so often family, these can be the closest or only relationships the senior may have, so they don't really want their family member to be arrested.
We often see that there's a sense of obligation by the older person to the younger person. There's a sense that they have to take care of them. And on top of that, there can be a caregiver dependent type concern as well. The older person may in fact need the younger person to provide them with services, to provide them with health and personal care needs, to do shopping and so on. She may be dependent on him for caregiving supports. She may really not want to go into a nursing home.
We have to consider that even though the older person is living in a situation that we would consider unhealthy or undesirable, this has become their life. And this might be desirable when the alternative is no longer having that family member in their life anymore. So quite often older adults will make the decision, the conscious decision, to remain in an unhealthy, even at times abusive relationship, because it's better than no relationship at all.
Financial abuse, which refers to the theft or exploitation of a person's money, property, or assets, is the most commonly reported form of elder abuse. It is frequently committed by the senior's son or daughter, or by their power of attorney. A power of attorney is a person who has been appointed by the senior, while mentally capable of doing so, to make certain decisions on their behalf when they become incapable of making those decisions themselves. In Ontario, there are two separate types of power of attorney. The power of attorney for personal care allows the appointed person to make medical, hygiene, shelter, and nutrition decisions for the person, and the power of attorney for property allows the designated person to make any property or financial transactions or decisions, except to write a will on behalf of the person.
The responsibilities are to act in the best interest of the person, not the person's family, not the person's children, not the person's dependents, but the person. But we know that sometimes these documents are abused, that the powers are exceeded, that attorneys act outside of the powers granted. Often these power of attorney documents are not documents granted by a grantor, but rather fraudulently either procured, unsigned, and used.
If that person starts making withdrawals from bank accounts and selling off assets and then using that money for their own interest, and it's not in the best interest of the other individual, that's a criminal offense.
There is a general misconception that these sorts of disputes are strictly civil matters. However, this is not the case. The Criminal Code does provide legislation allowing you to intervene and lay charges, which is often the best solution to stopping the abuse.
So the way we can be most effective in this regard is just to remain switched on when you're at these quote unquote lower priority calls. These aren't going to come across your screen as an elder abuse. They're going to be EDP calls, landlord-tenant disputes, check the well-being, noise complaints, these types of things. You're really going to need to know what you're looking for and to be paying attention to see that deeper issues might be going on.
You'll want to take note of their home environment. Are there signs of social isolation? Are assistive devices such as walkers, canes, hearing aids, and eyeglasses being used, or are they broken and sitting in the corner, or missing altogether? Are medications filled and up to date? What is their appearance like? Do they seem well taken care of? Is there a relative hovering over you, jumping in to answer questions on the senior's behalf? It's important to talk to the senior on their own, without distractions from others. This will allow you to get a clearer impression as to what their mental capacity may be, and if you feel they truly understand and appreciate the situation they are in. Start with lighter topics that are open-ended, just to get the conversation rolling and to establish a rapport. Eventually, build up to how they are doing, and then to your concerns about their situation.
One of the biggest challenges we have in law enforcement when it comes to intervening into these scenarios of elder abuse is we have to deal with the concept of autonomy versus protection. Autonomy meaning people do have the right to self-determination and to make decisions on their own behalves. And when someone is mentally capable of doing so, we allow people to live at risk and make decisions that can put them in harm's way. At times this involves an individual choosing to remain in a relationship that is unhealthy, dysfunctional, borderline abusive. And the other side of the coin is the protection aspect. And people who are not able because of cognitive impairment or perhaps a mental illness, they aren't able to appreciate the consequences of the decisions they're making. If they don't have that capability, we then as a state do have the responsibility to step in and protect them.
You're not going to be expected to decide whether this person's capable of choosing to ask the son to leave or ask the son to stay. You're not going to be asked to decide whether this woman's capable of managing her finances in such a brief time. But you might have some observations that would be helpful as to the fact that she seemed wary, she seemed confused, she seemed perplexed, and that her answers were consistent. Those would be red flags as to the fact that she might have some cognitive difficulties. So it's not just one answer that's going to give you an idea as to whether there's abuse going on, as to whether this person has cognitive impairment, or as to whether this person lacks capacity. It's a picture that you're going to build up over time through observing, listening to the answers, and just getting a sense of the whole situation.
As police officers, you're not legally qualified to assess an individual's mental capacity. There are healthcare specialists who do that. The question you really want answered is, what intervention is going to lead to the best result for the senior? So ask them, what are you hoping will happen? What outcome is desirable to you? Then present options and potential outcomes to the senior. Let them know, if we charge your son, this is what's going to happen. Or if he stays, maybe we can get you some help.
Often we may have grounds to lay a criminal charge, and the end result is going to be breaking up that family unit and removing that individual from their son, perhaps for the rest of their life. That may not be desirable to the individual. So it is a lot more complicated than recognizing what piece of legislation might be available to you. Sometimes the practical response is going to be more desirable to the victim than the heavier response.
If you don't feel charges are appropriate, providing intervention by connecting seniors and their families with community agencies who offer the support and resources they need is the most important thing you should do.
Toronto Seniors Helpline is a phone line, and it's run by registered professionals. They'll be able to let you know what community resources are out there. So definitely don't hesitate to call, or don't feel, oh, I don't have enough information, I shouldn't call. If something in your gut is telling you that something is not right with the senior, that maybe they're not coping well in their situation, I would really encourage you to give us a call. You don't have to feel like you're an expert in this. We have the information, and we're really wanting to help seniors.
Moving forward, we're only going to see more and more of these types of scenarios. To be effective police officers and do our jobs as well as we can, I think we really need just to get ourselves educated and be prepared and know what our options are before we walk into these scenarios.
Police shouldn't underestimate how important they are to older people. And in their role of community policing or in their role of actual intervention and laying charges, their involvement and their care can change the lives of older people and literally save lives. So police can play a pivotal role in making society better by learning about and responding to elder abuse and neglect.
To learn more about elder abuse and become better informed on how you can positively influence the lives of these vulnerable persons, visit elderabuseontario.com.
All right. So that was a video from Toronto on elder abuse awareness and just different tips to follow. And here's a quote to wrap it up. You don't have to wait for someone to treat you bad repeatedly. All it takes is once. And if they get away with that once, if they know they can treat you like that, then it sets the pattern for the future. Right? And now I just have a couple of resources if anyone wanted to take these down. So these are helplines and resources. If you're in an emergency, you can call 911 or local police, ambulance or fire services, and the Ontario Provincial Police number. And to report abuse is 1-888-310-1122, or the text number is 1-888-310-1133. And then reporting lines for reporting long-term care or retirement homes is 1-866-434-0144. I'm going to say that again, 1-866-434-0144. And for retirement homes regulatory authority, it's 1-855-275-7472. Right, and now it's time for the Q&A portion. So, what do you believe is classified as elder abuse? And do you think that any of the 6 topics left anything out?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. The topic should really be called senior disabled abuse.
Okay. So why did you want to make that difference in the name?
Okay. The difference in the name is that this problem with abuse does not exist only with seniors. It's also with people with disabilities.
That's true. Thank you. Thank you for making that distinction.
Very important distinction. Yes.
So,
and also,
that,
by the way, which was never talked in the topic, called government abuse. It's called abuse by the government, like ODSP. Like that's why I'm on ODSP, but they really should be calling it Ontario Disability Shafting Program. Would you believe that?
I don't know what shafting means.
Okay, what it means is, okay, I'm getting supports from the government right now, but they're not, what I'm not getting what's called is total adequate supports. For example, if I try to go to work, all the government wants to do is just take the money away rather than, let's see, what can he do with the money he's just earned towards helping himself get off permanently.
Oh, I understand now. So
And they won't, and the government doesn't want to give me an allowance to manage the chair, because every time I got to get repairs done, I got to go through the worker, which can take forever, and they won't let me deal directly with the shops.
So you're saying that the government is withholding you from basically working and making your own income, and that's another form of abuse?
Yes.
I agree.
So that should be in your topic next time.
Okay. Yeah, I agree, because like big corporations, like the government structure does have like biases and like withhold certain people. So for example, people with disabilities and seniors. So yeah, I definitely agree with what you just said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right now, I've actually been approved for Surrey Place, even though it's for developmental supports. It's going to help out with a bit with some of my physical disability issues too, because I was just recently approved through Surrey Place from the assessment I just recently taken.
So,
which is good.
I just wanted to ask you, since you said it should be change of name from just elder abuse to elder and abuse for people with disabilities, do you mean people with the disabilities of all ages?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, because think about it. Because because even when I was a kid, when I was with before ODSP really existed, I did work for the Scarborough Board when I was a kid, and I was on family benefits at the time, but they were still taking money away, even if I make a few dollars over basic income. I was just simply like, I was only working for the Scarborough Board for maybe a month or two, and I was writing a computer program which was never used, but I still got paid, you know.
Yeah.
But the government wanted to take money, but I make 1 cent over, they wanted to take the money away. They wanted to take that cent away over, which is strange.
So they put a limit on the amount of money that you could make?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's news to me.
That's been going on for years.
So do you know why they're limiting it?
Because they don't want you to get ahead.
They don't want me to get ahead.
Sorry.
Absolutely a form of abuse then, I think.
Yeah, it's control, Nicholas.
Yeah.
It's all about control. And
like keep you in a similar position.
The society feels that someone who is older or someone who is disabled, even if the mind is not disabled, we're automatically looked at as not being completely, cognitive of what's going on.
And that's very unfair.
But it's true.
Yeah, because if the government were doing things right now, the government could have spent a lot more money for a lot of things. The government could have been spending a lot more money on COVID-19 because I would have been working to start with, saving the money, saving health. I would have saved, more money would have been available for health care. 2, I could have been advocating for services that would help more than just me as a disabled person too. And I've done that many times.
I think it's very interesting how from when COVID started, they put out multiple different benefit plans, but they still haven't got it right for people that are seniors and people with disabilities yet.
No, and I've heard horror stories, people that even though they're not disabled, if you're on Ontario Works, they want to take money away too quick too, because even if you're on Ontario Works, you need a chance to build that cushion so you can edge your way out. Because what you want with the services is not a hand out, you want what is called a hand up. So, make sense?
Yeah, definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
Because a handout just keeps
When
you
you get
in
a
the same
hand up,
position you're in.
yeah, when you get a hand up, you do a lot more for yourself in the end, and you're depending less on others, and you're getting more done for the community as well.
Being more of a self-advocate.
Yes. And that's all covered in the previous section or 2 courses ago, self-advocacy.
Yeah. So let's move on to the second question. What things do you believe you and those around you can do to reduce the risk of elder abuse? So just to help yourself and to also help other people in similar situations.
What we need to do for attending care, we need to create the College of PSWs. That's one thing we need to do. Because as you remember what we saw what happened during COVID-19, where all those people that were elder and all these seniors home, they're all neglected and died. If we had the College of PSWs, all those caregivers would have been fired and some would have been charged with either assault or murder.
That actually did happen to my grandma's friend. Because of COVID, the hospitals were at capacity and she had to go in for like monthly treatments. I'm not 100% sure what it was for. And they just stopped doing the monthly treatments because they said COVID's a priority now. And that really sucks because she's been doing that for her whole life and it resulted in her passing away. So I think that they should have made it so people that needed to do like long-term services and care could still get that at the same time.
Absolutely.
Instead of completely shutting down the hospitals.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm lucky though. I still have my services during COVID. I only got mildly sick of COVID, and now I'm fully vaccinated.
Me too. So we're very lucky. The vaccine rollout, it looked very bad at first, but it turned out well.
Yeah.
Could you repeat the term that you said earlier? I just want to write it down for next time. Something about PSW?
What we need to create is called the College of PSWs.
Okay.
So the college works similar to the way we got the College of Teachers, College of Nurses, College of Doctors and Physicians, Dentistry.
College of Massage Therapists. I mean, they have to go and do, you know, they have to be trained. And the thing about PSWs is, and I have it here, for one person, it's a job. For everybody else, it's a career.
I remember you telling me about this one person too.
Right? Like, there's a huge difference when you actually give a shit.
So do you think that this one caregiver that's treating it like a job and kind of a bit resentful sometimes, is that
absolutely
they're abusive? Would you define them as
borderline? Absolutely. Because when I first came here, she actually put me back to bed 2 times because there, quote, wasn't enough time to finish what we needed to do. So she put me back to bed for 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And on one of the days, I actually had a video thing. So I, you know, sort of had to have the blankets up to here because I was still not dressed. And yeah, so yeah.
But I hope your situation with this worker gets better soon.
Oh, no, it's gotten better. It's gotten a lot better because first of all, I've spoken to the PSW manager, and second of all, I've spoken to her. And I've said, you know, I don't know what we need to do, but we need, I mean, and this was early on, because I'm sorry, but you're not railroading me a 3rd time.
That's really good that you went ahead and did that.
Yeah, well, I guess because of who I am and the fact that I am a little person and sort of had to fight most of my life, you know, I'll speak up, and I'll speak up quickly usually.
If you know you deserve something, you should definitely be speaking up. Yeah.
I'm sorry, this is you're railroading me. This is unacceptable. So yeah.
right. So I think that's just the 2 questions we had. So
Yep.
if you wanted to open the floor a little more of a discussion, do you have anything else you want to say about the topic of elder abuse and abuse for people with disabilities?
Other than it's shameful, no.
It is shameful. The video that was played made me really sad.
I've seen, I don't know where, but I've seen that video before. And, you know, when they make it so obvious, I mean, and it's not always that obvious. Sometimes it's a lot more subtle.
Yeah.
Especially where money is concerned. But yeah, it kind of breaks my heart.
It did look really sad, like how they were counting the money and stuff. And when the guy changed the channel from his grandma.
Well, the way he just like, you know,
yeah,
pulls the thing out of her hand, and then, you know, she goes to get him a beer, and then he's sitting in her chair. And chances are that's the only chair that's comfortable for her in her house because it's a recliner. And I mean, it's just, yeah, it actually makes me mad because I know that it happens.
It's sad to like that this is actually like some people's reality.
This is a lot of people's reality.
It did say, it said 80%, I think.
Yeah.
Of seniors experience this.
And the saddest thing is a lot of seniors, as the video said, they either don't recognize it or
they allow it to happen.
They don't really want to do anything about it because it is their own child. And this is the child that is, you know, providing any care that they may be getting, because maybe they're not in a place with, you know, other sort of attendant care. So if this is the child that like would drive them to church and, you know, say, no, I'm not driving you. It's like, well, to the elder, it's very important to go to church. And, you know, it's like, it's very sad.
I think that was also under religious abuse, like withholding you from your faith.
Yeah. So, good job.
Thank you. All right. So,
sorry I was late, by the way.
It's okay. So I guess we'll wrap it up now.
Okay.
Courtney?
Yeah. And you know what? You know, the also fighting, like, say, I'm working with the March of Dimes. And they were giving me another annual review form where they want me to go check and see what services I need and all that. They're still doing this whole thing in paper, even though they know I prefer to do stuff online or fill out forms electronically.
Yeah.
They're still doing that. It's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
Kind of crazy.
Yeah. So have a nice day then.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll just end the call this time.
Thank you, Nicholas.